Hi there, everyone. I'm Bruno. I'll be showcasing right back to you today. We'll do a product walkthrough of all the features and a few use cases that we'll be using for demonstrating those state features. For those of you that are already familiar with Writeback, we'll be showcasing the new features of version 3.1 of Writeback that was released just recently. So, given that we already know what we're going to be talking about, I'll start by demonstrating a few reasons why Writeback can be useful for our day-to-day activities. Okay, so we know that Tableau is really good at showing data and making people understand their data. And one of the key things that people tend to use Tableau for usually falls in these categories of certain actionable use cases. For example, here we have the replacing values, forecasting, root cause analysis, and so on. All of these use cases typically come with a certain level of user feedback and user input. Although for those inputs, typically users rely on external tools such as Excel, shared files on a drive folder, which can, of course, lead to a lack of security, a lack of auditing, and it's harder to maintain. And the thing with Writeback here is that it enables us to do everything from inside Tableau. And right from there, we can simply start taking action on those processes. Would it be forecasting or commenting and so on? And that's exactly what you're going to see with Writeback. We can always stay connected with our data. We don't have to go somewhere else, wait for a certain process to take action. And Writeback does give you all the possibilities to do this right on your dashboard, giving you an enterprise-grade auditing and database management because Writeback is deployed on your system and you have access both to the server configuration and the database configuration, of course. And as you can see on the last point as well, it's very easy to set up and maintain because Writeback comes bundled with the Writeback manager that enables you to do these various things, including the database connection and the authentication, because Writeback does support user authentication that can be integrated with your already existing single sign-on solution, and so on, of course. Now, all that being said, let's exactly see how a user will interact with Writeback. So I will bring up Tableau over here. I'll be showcasing this on Tableau desktop in presenter mode, but just to show you that this works pretty much exactly the same on Tableau server or Tableau online. I'm showing it in presenter mode because it's typically the view that we'll be seeing if we were a business user. Right, and as you can see from the examples that I've mentioned before, we have 3 of those right here on our workbook. Starting right from the first one, which calls for updating existing data. In this use case, we have a list of values. It's our monthly report for a list of products. And with this report, we can see which products have already been updated, which ones still require update, which are the orange ones, and the values corresponding. Now, Writeback is this area over here that we see that it's asking for is to log in, because as I said earlier, Writepack does have user authentication, and this user can be, in this case, it can be configured through the Writepack manager, and it gives you the possibility to audit which user made what change, and as well as keeping your data secure and restricted to only authorized users. Right, so once I log in, I see my form that got built from by a dashboard creator, and this creator is defining the dashboard in such a way that I have to provide the quantity, profit, and sales for a given product. Over here, I can see that they are exactly how I made that. And I can click here to see which product I'm working on at the moment. At the moment, I don't have any selected, of course. And I can see, for example, a few details about this configuration. Because Writepack can have a very large set of configurations. And over here, I can go in more detail just to understand what can be done with this form. Right. Now, if, for example, I want to update over here my Howard Miller clock, I can just simply go here, click on this product, and I can see that Writepack is reading that product for that particular month. And now I imagine that I have either somewhere else from another report or from our forecasting, I can see the sales doesn't actually match with the actuals. So I could just go here and see that, oh, we actually didn't sell 11 of these. We only sold about 6. And the profit was considerably lower around here, even though the sales were actually somewhat high. Now, notice that because I'm providing values for these numbers, I am now able to submit a comment. And because I made a change, I need to justify this comment. This was configured by my dashboard creator. So they now have some context on why this change is happening. And I can just simply say that we actually sold a few less than expected, for example, and I can just submit these values. As soon as I submit these values, my values are being written to the database, and as you can see, Tableau is performing an update, showing me now the updated values right here on the dashboard. So I changed it to 6, 120, and 400, and now I can see that these values match exactly the ones that I submitted. If perhaps I made a mistake or I needed to change anything in particular, I could just simply go here. I see that I clicked again on the same product, and I can actually change the value here and update it again. And it will show me the value updating right here. And the best part about this is that I can do this entirely on the dashboard. And this means that it also enables, for those of you that use Tableau mobile, for example, on an iPad, this allows you to use Writepack on an iPad as well, which can be very handy for people that do door-to-door analytics or any other type of interaction that requires you to be on the go, both with Tableau and with user input in terms of data, because this really enables you that flexibility. And as you can see here, I can get feedback pretty instantaneously when providing corrections to my data. On another note, Writepack can also be used for somewhat more complex scenarios, like we see in forecasting. Over here, we have a forecasting dashboard where we see the countries, and the performance of the forecast throughout the year. And we see the sales versus here in terms of predictions and forecasts. For example, let's see over here for Spain, and let's add a forecast. Notice that right back this time around, it's actually just a simple button. We'll later see these during the configuration phase of Rightback, but for the end user, what matters is that they have to select a mark and then click the button to open up the forecasting window of Rightback. So as you can see, once we open up Rightback here, we get the values from previous forecasting sessions. And in this case, I can see that it was the initial version for a forecast for Spain. This forecast for Spain is actually already filled out all the way until August. Now, my job here is to either complete or provide some more information for the forecasting in Spain. And I could do this either by looking at some actuals that we have in the past, or a very typical scenario is that we get these values in an Excel format, and then we actually want to write them to the database or make some changes. And it's something that I can do. For example, if I go to my Excel where I have my very simple example, what I can insert here, I could just go here, copy from Excel, paste it over here, and say that my forecast for September for Spain, it's already verified, or any other state, and the one for October is already waiting to be verified. If I would be, or if I were a manager or someone else that makes these validations, I could come here and say that, okay, so now this one is already final, this one is waiting, I see that it's verified, and that's fine, and I can submit my forecast. Once I submit, this gets stored in a database again. And there was a very slight change, but our values updated over here, and our graph as well. But the key thing here is that now if I go again to submit some forecasting for Spain, we will see that this forecasting is updated with the values that I just submitted. And that's the interesting thing here, is that if someone else had made this change, and when I open these forecasts for Spain, I would also see those values here, because I'm always iterating on the latest entry for this forecast session. And yeah, that's a very good example on how we can use the Rightback table configuration. Now, lastly, but certainly not least, because this is actually one of the most requested use cases for Rightback, it's the ability to actually provide comments on a dashboard. Tableau does enable us to comment on a particular dashboard using Tableau server, although those comments don't really provide us much control or information, or at least as much information as we would like to have. For example, over here, I'm commenting by quarter and year. So I can, based on the filters that I have on my dashboard, as you can see, Rightback is picking up the filters, and these filters create like some coordinates for my comments. I can see that, for example, for this set of filters, I already have 2 comments from a user that performed a certain analysis based on the performance of our shipping here on this dashboard. And just like any other user, I can just simply provide my analysis, saying like, for example, for this quarter and this year, our shipments are, for example, 20% is late, which could be typically expected. So let's just write that down. And we submit this entry, we'll see that writeback now has a count of 3 entries. I'll see my entries there. And if I were to update the data on this dashboard, I would see that my comments should go up to 3. Of course, this one is not configured for automatic updates because that's also optional in terms of the writeback configuration, but it's something that can be achieved if necessary. Right, so how does all of this work together? As a dashboard creator, you actually have a few steps before configure these for the end users. So writeback itself, it is hosted on a server. Then that's typically how the Tableau extensions work. And then the creator instructs Tableau to read the extension on the dashboard. With this dashboard extension, we are reading the data from the dashboard and writing this data on a dataset. These datasets here can be configured to any of the supported databases, which are the most common relational databases. It can even be the same one that you're already using. It really depends on how you want to go about this. But typically, we instruct writeback to perform a certain configuration, a certain form that will enable us to write to the database, and then this configuration is shown in Tableau as a form or as the forecasting window, for example, because depending on the configuration, that's what we're going to see on our dashboards, and then consequently, the dashboard viewer or typically the end user will access writeback already configured, so the process that I've been doing so far already, and they will be actually providing data to writeback, so writeback writes it to a database. Then, of course, because this is just data, you can feed this data back to your views or do any external procedures, backend process that move your data around. And as you can see here up top, we have the writeback manager that lets us configure writeback in terms of authentication and database connection as well, among other things, but those are like the key ones. Now, let's configure our own configuration of writeback. I'll go here again to our Tableau view, but now I'll switch this to just a regular Tableau desktop view. Right, I have a simple dashboard here already prepared for this. And we have our sales by category and country right here. Now, to configure writeback, it's pretty straightforward. We simply drag and drop the extension object to the dashboard, and I have my tracks file here, which indicates Tableau to retrieve the extension from here. Now, for my sales forecast, or sorry, for my category and country, that's the worksheet that I want to read from. So I will select that worksheet. And I don't want to get the sales. I can just remove it. I just want to get the category and country. Because what we'll be doing here will be a sales fixed type of scenario. So I'll call my dataset fixed sales, which will be the name of the table that will be created on our database. And for the field, I will say that I have my sales fixed, for example. This is the name of the new value for the sales, because as you can see, I already have the sales here on my view, but I want to provide the actual sales if necessary. Additionally, I can provide a status for this value, which can be something like if it is approved or if it is an urgent change that needs to happen on our database. And finally, I can provide a comment so I can explain a little bit on why this change needs to happen. So once I submit, what happened in the behind the scenes is that Writeback created a table on our database, and sorry, and we can now simply start adding data. So for example, for Austria, I can click here and then click on Writeback to bring up Austria, and furniture as well, because we're seeing this by category and country. And I can say that based on my sales report for the month or my sales report for the year or so on, we can configure these on any time frame, on any set of parameters. I can simply say here that the sales fixer actually is just 20,000 on the spot. It's approved, and just a slight change, for example. I write this, it goes there, meaning that it's already on the database. And now, for example, I could read it back to the dashboard. But now, let's think for a bit here. So notice that every time that I have to submit, I have to click here and then click here again to bring this up. And perhaps it would be ideal to actually have the form right here on the dashboard, similar to what we had on the update existing data example. So we can reconfigure Writeback. We see that our configuration comes up again. And for example, I'll simply create here a configuration where the actual form will be in white. I can also add a description, by the way. I have it here already set up, but just to provide some information to our business users on what needs to be done. And I can also, as you can see here, turn on the inline form option for the form to show up right away on the dashboard, saving us some time and a few clicks. Another thing that I noticed is that for the comment, perhaps it doesn't make sense to provide a comment every time I approve something, because it's just approved. It just means that it can move on. Although when the status is set as urgent, it might make sense to justify why you are making this change, right? So I'll just type in here that status equals urgent. And this basically means that if status equals urgent, then the comment field will show up. Okay, so I hit apply. Now we see that it does have a condition there, and I'll simply add my data set. Right, so as you can see, of course, this is a little bit large and everything because we're doing it on a very large dashboard, but as you can see here, now I still get the selected markup there, okay? And my comment no longer shows up. Although, for example, I'm selecting Ireland here, and I see that the value is actually quite low. Well, let's turn this up over to 10,200. I say that it's urgent, and now my comment does show up. And I can provide an information on why this change is necessary. For example, I can say that the value is a large difference, for example, and I can just submit, and now my value is stored right there. Now, so far we're just submitting values and not doing really anything with them. And the key thing here would be to actually see these changes take place on our dashboard right away. And to do so, I'll actually create a relationship here with Tableau. I could do this with other methods, but a relationship is typically more flexible for these cases. So I'm going to connect to my PostgreSQL database, which in this case is the database that Writeback is writing to. And as you can see here, I have my fixed sales table that I created with Writeback. And as expected, I have one entry for Austria and another one for Ireland, which are the entries that I made a few minutes ago. Now, I can just simply add my fixed sales here, and I will connect them by category and by country. Okay, there we go. So they are now connected. And if I update this, I should see my, there we go. I should see my values right here. Now, since we're here, there's one thing that I can actually explain to you, which is the historical audit. This is default. This is a default table of writeback that gets created when writeback is configured for the first time. And in this table, we get access to all the changes and all the actions that are taken on writeback. So as you can see here, I can see by the fixed sales information, for example. So the two entries that I just inserted a few moments ago are registered here, saying that it was done by user one on desktop at a certain time and on a certain data set. As you can see, the key here also matches the key on the actual data table, meaning that I can cross these data and perform a very detailed analysis on what's happening through my writeback installation. And yeah, so I think we're set for here at the moment. And now let's actually make these data show up on our dashboard. By the way, in this webinar form, you're able to provide or to ask questions that by the end of the demonstration, I'll be doing a Q&A, and those questions that you ask here, I'll be able to answer them by the end. Okay. Right. Moving on to setting up the configuration as we want it. I can see here that I have access now to my fixed sales table. And what I actually want to do is to create a calculated field that I will say sales updated, for example, which are the fixed ones, right? Like so. And what I actually want to do in here is to show either the original data value for the sales, or if there's already an update for that value in writeback, I actually want to show the writeback value. So with a very simple calculated expression, where we say that if the sales fixed, and this is in the writeback table, as you can see, I have the sales fixed here. So if this value is null, then we'll show the original value of the sales. And this original value is coming from here, which is from the original data. Otherwise, meaning that if this is not null, we will be showing the writeback data. Okay, so we create this calculated field, and then we can actually, I'll just remove this one, and I'll show this one then. So as we can see here, for example, for Austria, the 20,000 is the value that I submitted with writeback already. Same thing for Ireland, which was much lower before. Now it's up to 10,000. But all the other ones that I haven't changed yet also have a value. And this is very useful because we can compare and see the change taking place right away on the dashboard. So we can go back to our example. And now one thing is that I actually want to make this update when I make changes, right? So I can go here again, and on my additional settings on the dashboard settings, I can turn on auto refresh and say that I will update the sample superstore extract, which in this case is the data that I'm using here. And this, by the way, it's a very interesting improvement over the previous versions of Writeback, where earlier Writeback would update all the worksheets connected to all the data sources connected to the worksheet. But now we can specify what data source to update, which can be very useful for busy dashboards or for updating a specific set of information. Another interesting aspect to consider here is the unique entries, because this way we ensure that only one value is allowed, in this case, per category and country. Meaning that for Ireland, once I try to change this value, it won't actually submit a new value on top of it. It will effectively change this entry. And this way, we always get the latest information for this country. And it also makes our life much easier when configuring Tableau, because we always know that we simply need to retrieve the latest entry. Additionally, if necessary, you can actually configure the look and feel here, and I can just say, for example, this is the sales fixed form, and you can change the size if you see that it's too big or too small, and so on. Right, so once we apply this, we'll see that the look and feel got updated a little bit. And now, if I, for example, go here to Switzerland and I want to change this to 68,000 or 6,800, and select that it's approved. Now I submit, and I should see my data updating right away. There we go. As you can see, data got updated, and this way I can get feedback pretty much instantaneously of this. And as I mentioned earlier, now if I want to change this and keep always seeing the latest entry, there's one key thing that's left to do, which considering the Writeback table here, you see that there's another entry which is for Switzerland. I didn't provide a comment because I select approved this time. We notice there's this is active column, and this is a very important column here, because when Writeback works either with unique entries or deleting entries, because I forgot to mention that, but we can actually remove an entry from Writeback. So if I go here to Switzerland, I can press the little cross here on my timeline to delete this entry. Okay, I want to do this now because I want to show you another thing. But what this is doing in behind the scenes, both with the new unique entries and deleting, is that we don't actually delete data. We turn this flag, which is the active column, to false, meaning that this will no longer show or be of interest either to Writeback or to any other tool that we're using. In this case, we're using Tableau, so we have to consider that in Tableau. Same thing happens with the unique entry. So if I were to change the value here of Switzerland to, let's say, 10,000 as well, this line would be disabled, or meaning that it would be turning to false, and another line will be added with the true value. And because of this, we now have to go to our worksheet and actually provide exactly these filters. So in my filters, I will enable to only show the no or true. So no are the ones that don't have any entry yet, and the true are the ones that already have and the ones that we actually want to read. And now, what happens if, for example, I go here to Austria, which I already have a value for, or I thought I did. Let's just see right here. Let's see if it actually went through. Yeah, okay. Let me just get Switzerland as well. And for some reason, my extension is not responding. Let me just reload this for a second. And actually, I can actually show you another great feature of WriteBack, which is that if there's already a configuration that we have done before, I can grab it and bring it back here with the configuration, meaning that now it should be here. Yeah, there we go. So as you can see, for Austria, as I was bringing it up, I get the sales fixed here on my input and the status. So if I were now to update this, so I see that's perhaps a little bit too much, and I can just go halfway. I can edit, and it prompts for a refresh, and now right away I see my change in there. And what happened? Sorry, what happened in the background is that for Austria, I now have two entries, but one of them is false. And for Tableau, I'm only retrieving this one, which is the latest one. Okay, and as you can see, we can very quickly create a configuration in WriteBack, and with this provide updates or provide comments, forecasting, and so on. And with all the iterations that I've been doing so far, with this configuration in particular, we can see that the configuration itself is quite flexible, and it does allows us to configure it to multiple scenarios and to basically any needs that we might have, we are able to do it. Now, moving on with how WriteBack can be deployed. It is deployed as a web application that is on premises, and it is in a server hosted by you, connected to a database hosted by you as well. And WriteBack, besides the product itself, it has an extensive documentation page, as well as the service desk available for any questions on your throughout your usage or during the installation and so on. On our website, writeback4t.com, you can check the pricing and the user tiers. WriteBack is on a subscription basis on user tiers that you can consult in there as well. And on our website, you can also find a link to download or to perform a trial. The trial is active for 30 days, and you can pretty much try all the features of WriteBack that I just showed you on your own environment. Lastly, but again, certainly not least, we do have already quite an interesting set of customers that are actively using WriteBack, and some of them already provide us feedback that on how WriteBack really helped them to expand their productivity and to organize their data much more easily. Including the Lean Gas, the gas company, which has over 200 users across Europe, which do a lot of forecasting on a monthly basis with very heavy usage. They also do a lot of preloading of data to WriteBack, which is a very interesting use case. And they also work heavily on the WriteBack features, including the historical audit for tracking all the changes that are made. Right, so now it's your chance to get your questions heard. And if you do, please do it in your Q&A section on GoWebinar. And I'll wait a few seconds to see if anyone comes up. And once the questions start coming through, I'll be answering them. Okay, so we have our first question coming through, which is, does right pick work on the server? Right. So yeah, as I said in the beginning, right pick, as you saw it, it works exactly the same on Tableau server. I'm assuming this is asking for Tableau server. And yes, so right pick does write um, or does work exactly as expected on Tableau server. Although there's a few differences that can be achieved because of the Tableau server implementation, in the sense that, for example, viewers will only see what I was doing in presentation mode, meaning that they won't be able to configure right back. But the dashboard creators or the creator role in Tableau server, those will be able to actually create configurations even on the server. So the functionality of WriteBack is not limited by that aspect. Okay, so we have another question here. Hi, I am currently working on creating Tableau dashboards in a replacement of PowerPoint presentation. I would like the end user to be able to write visible comments as in a PowerPoint, which should change whenever a filter is changed. Is this possible? And is it possible to add previous comments? Thank you for your question. And yes, so as you saw earlier on the commenting use case, Writeback is able, yes, to provide comments on that particular dashboard. And if this dashboard does have filters, which was the case on our example, you can make it so that the comments also show up according to the filters. And this can even be, how do I say it? It can be showed either on other dashboards, and those other dashboards can also apply filters, provided that the filters are compatible. Okay, and it does make it possible. Yeah. So I think the answer, the quick answer to your question would be that yes, it is possible to provide comments and have those comments be affected by the filters, because it's just data that's being read to the dashboard. And yeah, that's because it's data, you can just filter it and so on. So yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Let's see if there's any more questions. Okay, so I think we have one last question here, which is, how do I manage who can submit data? Right, that's a very interesting question. So you can, as I mentioned before, a little bit in tandem with the Tableau server. So if you're using solely Tableau server, you can actually manage these with the Tableau permissions, meaning that only the creators will be able to configure. Although sometimes this might not be enough, and we actually want to restrict the data submission. One way this can be done is through user authentication. So depending on the users that are able to log in, they will either be able or not able to submit data, because they will either be able to log in or not. So those that cannot log in will not be able to submit data. And another approach, and we actually have a use case for this on our knowledge base, which is applying the concept of row level security to Writeback. With Writeback, a manager or a creator or someone higher on the hierarchy, for example, can create a Writeback configuration where they will be able to define which users are assigned to a certain set of data. And then with this configuration, we're able then to provide the users access to the data based on that configuration. And this way, we essentially have row-level security managed through WritePack and row-level security on Tableau as well, giving you a lot of control over your data. And I think this is it for all the questions. And if, yeah, it seems that no more questions are here. So yeah, so we thank you all for coming and staying with us for this webinar, and I hope you liked it. And um, if you're interested, please do take our trial that you can see on our website, writepack40.com. And yeah, thank you again for your time, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Bye.